Hey guys, welcome. It's Julie Hamilton with Life Builders, bringing you simple tips to build a strong and healthy life on. We are so glad you're here. Welcome to Monday. How's your Monday going?
Oh, tiring.
Tiring. Already? It can't be already tiring.
I know, the weekend wasn't very relaxing.
Oh, that's right. You guys had a busy weekend. Well, I hope you guys had a relaxing weekend. And so I'm here with an awesome guest today. You guys, this is going to be so awesome. I'm here with Amanda Chambers. Woo! Hello. Some of you guys already know Amanda, and if you do, you know that she's smart and she's loyal and she's dedicated, and I love so many things about Amanda. She happens to be my neighbor, kind of, which is amazing that I get to live next to her. And I've been begging her, can I please interview you about homeschooling? And she agreed. Good morning, Heather Ann. How are you? But before we jump in, I just wanted to remind you guys, there's Rachel. Hey, Rachel. If you're reading with us Big Magic, this week we're going to be reading part 3, which is called Permission. And so last week, that's what it was. What was it? Last week was about courage and enchantment. I don't know, did you guys read this? It was so good. There's Sarah. Hey, Heather Ann's in Vegas. Yeah, so she's probably trying to stay cool over there. Oh, yeah, I just met Rachel through Facebook. So apparently you know Rachel too. And Rachel's in Winters. And Rachel's saying it. Okay, anyway, this is Big Magic. If you're on it, we're going to be reading part 3. It's like 70 pages, but this book is so easy to read. Elizabeth Gilbert just writes in stories, and I love her stories. So anyway, read along with us. Jump in if you haven't got in yet. It's easy. Download it on your Kindle. You can start today in like 5 minutes. But we're going to be talking today about homeschooling. Good morning, Kate. How are you? We're going to be talking about, now what happened with me is I've been homeschooling forever. It seems like an eternity. I was thinking yesterday, I've been teaching since 1998. Like that's almost 20 years. That's like other people's kids and then my own kids. And then, Miranda graduated from homeschool. So she's all done with that. It's going to be weird to only homeschool one. That's going to be really interesting. But I've been doing it a long time. But we have a couple families on our street that just started this year, and Amanda is one of them. And it's been so fascinating for me to watch because she's taught me so much, and I just wanted her to come on here and share all the things that she's taught me with you guys. And so this is really for people who are kind of on the fence about homeschooling, or you're just getting started and you're like wondering like, what can I do to make this more interesting? Or if you're like me and you've been doing it forever and you're so stuck in your rut that you're like, this is the curriculum I use every year, and you don't go research anything new, and she's going to give us some great ideas for a good curriculum. So good morning, Jessica. Great to see you. Oh, you're planning on homeschooling. That's awesome. All right, well, let's get started. Amanda, okay, first our silly question of the day. If you could eat any kind of cereal, like not healthy, it doesn't depend on how healthy it is, and you can eat any kind of cereal like for the rest of your life, what would be your favorite? This tells a lot about a person. So what would be your favorite cereal?
Honestly, super basic Cheerios with fruit on it.
Oh, what kind?
Strawberry, peaches, bananas.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Anything on Cheerios.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't really like the high sugar cereals.
Yeah,
they taste gross to me.
Yeah, I like it. Good for you. I just told her I've been eating like crap for like 3 weeks, and now I gotta. So that good. I'm glad that it sure tastes gross to you. That's good. All right. So tell us, Amanda, about your growing up. Like, take 2. Well, let's do this. Let's back up. Take 2 minutes and tell us about your life now and what you're doing. Okay. What's your life like?
I'm 36 years old, and I have 3 kids. I have an 11-year-old son, a 9-year-old daughter, and a 7-year-old son. I'm married to, been married to my husband for almost 14 years, and he is currently in law enforcement. We both he was born and raised in Napa. I've lived in Napa since I was 10 years old, so we just kind of,
I love it.
That's our life right now.
I was thinking today, there's a lot of law enforcement families that are homeschool. I was just thinking myself, I know of at least 4 right now. Of my close friends that are law enforcement that homeschool. So that's interesting.
It is.
Okay, so tell us about, just take a couple of minutes. Tell us about your growing up. I don't know much about your growing up life. I know your parents, but,
yes.
I don't know much about growing up. And tell us in that, like, who was your greatest influence?
Okay. Both my parents were born and raised pretty much in Wisconsin, and I was born in Wisconsin, but only lived there for.
Can I tell you guys that her dad wears a big cheese head to church, like when it's football season, like really a big block of cheese. What's that? I mean, is it like
it's just called a cheese head?
A cheese head. Okay, he wears a cheese head. It's awesome.
So I was born there, but didn't live there very long. My dad's job moved him around a lot, so we moved to Southern California for 5 years, and then I lived in Missouri for 5 years, which was where I started school and went to school till 4th grade. And then right before 5th grade, we moved to Napa, and I lived here pretty much ever since, outside of college and stuff. I was kind of a really quieter, shy kid growing up. I loved to read. My greatest influencer in my life was my aunt, Aunt Barb, and she lived in Wisconsin, and she was a school teacher, and she would drive down to Missouri and spend a month or two with us during the summers. And so she really, she played with us, she swam with us, and then she really encouraged us to read and would give us like incentives for reading, and she modeled it with her own life. You would find her with a book, sunbathing outside or curled up on the couch reading. And so
how do you get reading in? Like, speaking of homeschooling moms, and this is, like, I'm asking for my own personal encouragement too, like, how do you fit reading into your life? Because it's so important to, like, just read and gain from other people,
Yes. I'm kind of a night owl. And so that's my time to have time by myself and rejuvenate, especially this year after having my kids home all day with me, which was really crazy and insane at first.
Yes.
But so for me, bedtime is super important. You go to bed, and then mom has time by herself for a few hours.
Nice.
So,
do you read Kindle or like real books? What do you
Real
prefer?
books. I do not like reading on a screen.
I know, it's so hard not to turn the page, because then you can't flip back through. Like, I know you can flip on your Kindle, but it's like if I hold my book, I can go like, this page I want.
Yes.
It's like on a Kindle, you're like, okay, so let's talk about, what we talked about was she just completed her first year of homeschooling. You did it.
Yay.
Awesome.
You survived.
You survived, you made it. So I want to ask you, let's go back to the time before you started. What do you think were some of the things or myths or misconceptions that people have about homeschooling that maybe keep them from homeschooling? What do you think could be that?
I think one of the biggest things that I've heard from people and that I kind of wondered about myself is I'm not smart enough to teach my own kids.
Right.
I haven't gone to school to become a teacher. I'm not credentialed or trained to be a teacher. And for me, I just feel like homeschooling is just learning alongside your kids. Like, you just have to have like that learner's spirit, like a desire to learn and grow. Yes. And if you have that, then you can teach your own kids. So I feel like that was a huge misconception that even I had. And this year we've really been exposed to a lot of stuff. There's a lot of online stuff like Khan Academy and YouTube. You can find a YouTube video about anything. And my son will attest to that. He will find YouTube videos about everything. And so just all that kind of stuff. Libraries are your best friend, and checking out books about everything. I just feel like there's so much great stuff out there that anyone can teach. Really, truly, anyone can teach their kids. You do not have to be an expert on anything. And really, you shouldn't be, because if you're not an expert on something, it's an opportunity to teach your kids, well, how do we learn about that? How do we figure that out? Or let's go find an expert and talk to them about that, and give your kids an opportunity to learn from somebody else other than you.
It's like right now, she's just mentioned like 5 resources, guys, like YouTube, Khan Academy, going to other professionals, going to the library. I mean, this is how you make homeschooling interesting and effective and successful. Yes. And I love what you said about a learner's spirit. That really touched me, because like we are lifelong learners.
Yes.
Right? And if we have to be modeling learning for our kids, like when is the last time that we modeled something where we learned a new skill or had to look up something, That's so good. I love that. Such a key. Okay, so thinking that you're not capable, like a lot of people are like, I can't do it. How could I teach them to read? I don't know. I've never taught somebody how to read, like that kind of thing. And then so, what did I write down? I'm sorry. I'm looking at my notes too.
Oh, another huge misconception that I feel like people have is that they can't be around their kids all day because their kids will drive them crazy. And I do think that there is an aspect of that, but when you homeschool your kids, it's really different.
Okay.
So my kids were in public school for 4 years, and I will admit I truly adored dropping them off and picking them up 6 hours later. It was amazing and wonderful. But we had major meltdowns all afternoon. So my time with them was battling homework or running to soccer or baseball practice, and just being busy with them. And we didn't really have a lot of just downtime where we could just hang out and be a family and not have to do other things. And I think when you homeschool, the dynamic is just different. Like you're not rushing to get up in the mornings and get everyone packed up into school, and you're not picking up grumpy kids and then having to fight the homework battles. So that it's just a very different dynamic when you homeschool.
Interesting.
So I don't know.
It
really, I was really worried about that. I'm a huge introvert. I really need my time by myself, and homeschooling was really scary to me because I didn't know how I would survive having little people around me all day demanding attention.
Yes.
But I've really been surprised at how much it's just created a different relationship with my kids, and I'm
changed the family dynamic in a sense.
Yes, very much so.
That's interesting. And then what was it kind of the thing that you like, what was it that made you like finally go like, this is it, like I'm gonna try it, like I'm gonna jump in the deep end and give it a whirl?
I think for me the biggest thing, there were social issues with public school that we kind of ran into, and some learning stuff that had to be addressed. And I think the biggest thing for me was, especially with my older kids, they were losing their love of learning, and school was becoming a drudgery and a job. And I really am kind of passionate about my kids loving learning, and you need to be a lifelong learner, and you need to be able to self-teach and go and find answers when you need answers. And so for me, that was kind of that last piece. Like, no, we need to love learning. And I felt like at home I could create an atmosphere where my kids learn to love learning.
Wow, I love that so much. But if you think about it, that kind of like goes back all the way to like your aunt and stuff. I'm thinking like, I just seen that reflection, you know? That's so cool. Like, this is really important. That's awesome. She says that's also the teacher's fault if a teacher doesn't love to learn and teach, the kids' hearts won't be in it. That is true. That I can attest as a teacher, it's super hard to like love to teach, and you got 30 kids and you're trying to like wrangle everybody, and you know. And then I think the hard thing about being a teacher these days is there's so many constraints.
Yes.
Like you have to cut out a lot of the stuff that you love because you have to teach to math and language arts test. You know, and so I totally agree, and I agree with that, and I agree with what you're saying too. Like, so it can become just so overwhelming. Okay, so I love that you're talking about learning and loving of learning. I love learning, but I want you to talk about, like, she has found some really cool ways to learn that has really influenced me and brought a lot of interesting ideas into my life that I think make learning a way more fun. So she's introduced me to game schooling, which I never heard of. Have you guys heard of game schooling? Could you tell us about game schooling? Because it's like the coolest concept. And now my kids are like, or Livy's like, can we please game school? Can we be a game schooling family? Okay, go on. We have
for me, I'm kind of a researcher at heart, and so when we got into this homeschooling thing, I started following a lot of blogs and Facebook pages and reading a lot of books, and kind of the whole like unschooling ideas and all of that stuff just to find what was going to be the best fit for our family. And one of the ideas that I loved, I found a Facebook page by Caitlin Curley called My Little Poppy's Game School Community. And it's just a Facebook page where parents talk about different games they use for different subjects and get ideas from each other.
Nice.
But it's just this idea that so much can be taught through games, whether it's cooperative games where they're working together to solve a problem or to come up with a solution. We play a couple great games like that, like Forbidden Island and Pandemic. There's games that involve geography and strategy games.
Oh my gosh,
you know, so my kids play Ticket to Ride, they play Geo Bingo.
That one you loaned us, they even had one about ecosystems where you had to like build the cards.
It's called Hit the Habitat Trail. And you're traveling through all the different habitats, whether it's the Arctic or the jungle or the rainforest. And you're getting asked questions about those things, and so it's really fun they have to collect cards. And
we're gonna at the bottom at the comments at the end we'll list all the games and stuff that she mentioned here, because these are so valuable. And so what do you think, like, and I know there's math games too.
Yes, there's lots of different math games, and just easy ones where you're just working on simple adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing equations. Like Sleeping Queens is a really fun one. But we've all played, I think we sat outside one day at recess and we all played Sleeping Queens for an hour.
That was so fun. That was so fun.
But there's stuff like, there's Kickstarter games out there and games that have gone mainstream like Prime Climb that are really fun. And I think it's teaching the kids, a big part of game schooling for me is teaching them that making mistakes is great and that you learn from mistakes. And games are a safe place to make mistakes. My kids hate it when they get something wrong on like a worksheet or something that their school page that they're working on. But if they make a mistake in a game, they're much quicker to talk about that mistake and then learn from it.
Nice.
Which kind of goes into that whole like growth mindset of you don't, if you know all the answers all the time, you're not growing. You're just stagnant. Your brain's just kind of staying status quo. But if you're making mistakes and then you're learning from those mistakes and figuring out different ways to come to a solution, then your brain can grow.
Yeah, I love it. So one thing that Amanda, and we're going to go back to the comments because we have some great, she has some great resources. Yes, we will write them down for you. One thing that you just mentioned was growth mindset. And that's one thing that I've really learned from Amanda, I've heard, I believe in our mindset and stuff, and I just haven't really thought, I guess, really about how to apply it specifically to schooling and all of that. And that's one thing that Amanda does. So tell us about growth mindset and then how you would apply that to whatever your kids are doing. Like, so making mistakes will be one aspect of it. So what about, is there anything else that you would add to that?
I don't know. It's just it's more of just talking to the kids on a pretty regular basis about, hey, it's okay to make a mistake and it's okay to, not know all the answers. For us, it ties into kind of everything, whether it's more of how, as the teacher and parent, how I address stuff with them than it is necessarily like teaching growth mindset.
Yeah.
It's more of when we're going over a math problem, like looking at all the different ways that you can solve it. Nice. Or when doing, we use IEW for our language arts, and so it's anytime they write stuff, we sit down and we edit it together, and so they're learning editing marks and how, what different changes they could do and how to make something better, and then they go back and write a final draft. So it's just kind of that idea of like, it's okay to not know all the answers, and it's good to not know all the answers, and you can always grow and learn. So
tell us about, I know some of the gals on there were thinking about resources, so tell us about IEW. That's new to me, and I forget. you remind me what it stands for? But it sounds really cool. I want to use it next year.
It's Institute for Excellence in Writing. And it's a little pricey. We were able to afford it because we actually go through a charter school. And so we're like an independent study charter school where we have a teacher over us who checks in with us and makes sure that all our paperwork is aligned for the state.
Yes.
But we have a lot of freedom within that to teach the way we want to teach and to teach to whatever's best for each kid. IEW has a bunch of different resources, but what I love about it is that their whole idea is that kids learn through modeling, and the more you model, the better writers they'll become, the better readers they'll become.
Yeah.
They have a really amazing grammar program called Fix It Grammar that is super crazy easy, and it takes both of my older kids 2 to 5 minutes a day, and all they're doing is editing a sentence and rewriting it and looking up a word and writing a definition.
Nice.
But within 2 weeks, my kids were recognizing nouns, they were recognizing articles, parts of sentence, when they would need to indent, when they don't need to indent.
Yeah.
And so it's just a really easy but fun way for them to learn grammar.
I know. I'm going to check that out, you guys. That's what I'm going to use next year, I think. All right, so we got to go back. So Heather Ann said she loves inquiry-based learning. Rachel had this great point. Homeschooling is not public school at home.
Yes.
That was a big one for me. Yeah, seriously. It's a serious mindset shift and rewiring. Yeah, can you speak to that at all? Like, just like that mindset, like, okay, we don't have to do everything that we're doing in public school or whatever. And then Heather Ann said resources, and Rachel said Kathy Duffy Reviews is amazing for finding resources. Do you is that a source that you use?
I have used her stuff, yeah.
Nice. And what else do you use for resources?
I don't know.
No, you like
I read a lot.
Well,
I read a lot of blogs, and I like look at a lot of stuff, and then I just kind of check stuff out. I think I learned about IEW through a mom's blog that was using it, that really liked it, and it was a good fit for her kids for learning how to really write well and write interesting, and not just like basic sentence
It's
stuff.
like writing and higher math and science. Those are like the hardest ones, I think. Like, I think writing is one of the more challenging ones to teach, and I have not done a great job of teaching writing, and I really need to work on that. So, but then when they get into the higher math and science, you really have to pull in extra resources for that. You mentioned providing a list of games. Yes, we will put games and resources on there. You're right, Heather Ann. All right, so what do you find to be most, now we're going to just talk a little bit about homeschooling, realities of homeschooling. What do you find to be most challenging? And then we'll talk about what you find to be most rewarding. So let's be real and honest.
Yes.
You know. I mean,
I think for me the most challenging thing is teaching 3 different levels. You know, this year I had a 4th grader, a 3rd grader, and a 1st grader. And so how do I teach to 3 different levels and make sure that I have all those?
Yes. That's going to be hard.
So that part was really the most challenging part for me. And the reality of doing homeschool in your own house, like sometimes kids are very easily distracted because they're not necessarily sitting at a desk where they have 25 other kids sitting at desks around them, and there's the peer pressure to do stuff. So I think those were the 2 most challenging areas for me.
Yeah.
Just kind of navigating that and figuring that out. And for us, I really tried to combine stuff. We did Story of the World for history. So all 3 kids were learning about the same historical
That's so cool.
things together. And then any assignments they did, I would just level that assignment for where they were at.
Nice.
And then science, I kind of tried to do science together. So that was really helpful to kind of, you know, I think a lot of it is just learning to be flexible and not being, I tend to be a very organized person, and I like things to go in a certain order, and homeschooling is really stretching me to be more flexible and to realize that every year might look different, and
Yes.
every month might look different.
Yes.
And that's okay. And
I think that's a perfect segue, because she's asking, can you walk through your typical homeschool day? And I think for one thing, like I can too, and you can too. I think for me, like the one thing that's changed over the years is like having, like when Livy was a baby, we would wait, we would do our like chores and stuff in the morning, and then at 1 o'clock when Livy went down for a nap, then Miranda and I would start school. So we would do it from 1 o'clock to whatever, while Livy was sleeping. And then as she got older to be a toddler, it changed, and then we've done things where like we would do like one subject and then everybody stops and does their chores so mommy can work for an hour, and then it's like we change it up every time. And I'll just tell you, like it's flexed so much throughout the years. For me right now, my schedule looks like I have a child who needs structure and needs to know. I'm more flexible. I'm more like, yeah, let's just do this, da 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 da. But for her, it works better to have a structured system and an organization, so she knows like this is how much time I have, this is what I'm gonna do next, and we do the same thing every day to build that structure and that kind of security safety net. And so what we do is we'll wake up. We'll kind of hang around by 8:30. We all do our quiet time, and we all have like 30 minutes to ourselves to like create, to do something quiet, to read our devotional or whatever. At 9 o'clock, we usually start math, and we have like a couple subjects of math for like 45 minutes, and then we do like Spanish. And then at 10 o'clock, because there's 3 families on our street that homeschool, we usually go outside for an hour, which is like the best thing ever. We just like sip our coffee and let them run around like crazy people, which is so fun. They climb in trees and play basketball and scooter and stuff, so that's great. We come in, hit a couple more subjects, then we stop for lunch. And then we have lunch for like 45 minutes or an hour, and then we go back to the like 1 o'clock. We start back to our last subjects, which are reading and language arts, because she can do more of the reading and language arts on her own. And so because history I still do read aloud, science we still are doing read aloud, so those kind of need my focus and attention. But it's kind of a balancing act because I also have to work. So that's why we kind of do language arts in the afternoon, and then I can start working and she can work on her worksheets or whatever, or her journal and that. And then after that we do chores, and that's it. That's my schedule. What about yours? What does yours look like?
Our schedule flexes a little bit. I try to keep the kids pretty focused.
Good morning, Sarah Ann.
Good morning. So usually we start our day, the kids are up, they have their normal morning stuff that they know they have to get done, they have to get dressed, they have to make their beds, their rooms have to be clean, brush their teeth after breakfast, all that normal stuff. Usually we're starting like our day, our school day. I don't think of it as a school day. Normally we're starting that around 8:15, 8:30. Yeah. It really depends on the day, but I really like to start with like time together at the table as a family. And so we try to do like me reading aloud sometimes to them, and they do some artwork or just some creative stuff to kind of get going for the morning. Then we kind of move into like stuff that we need to do together. So sometimes we'll go right into our history because we do our history all together. And then we break up for different stuff. So sometimes we're doing math. I usually don't have them do math all at the same time because each kid needs some one-on-one time with math. And so I might send my oldest to the computer to do his typing program. And then I might be doing math with my youngest one at the table. And then my daughter, she might be doing her reading. So it's kind of the way, we kind of rotate the kids.
I like that.
And so it's not, and then when I'm doing math with my son, my daughter might be doing the typing program. So usually for me, what works best is the night before I have like an easel whiteboard, and I just write out like with check boxes, all the different things that each kid has to get done for the day. And then a lot of times they have the freedom to choose what order they're going to do it in and how they're going to do it. And then the stuff we do all together as a family, I have not underneath their names, just kind of separate, so that they know that we're doing that as a family, and that's not like their responsibility to check off.
Yeah, that's so cool. And it's like, that's the thing, is like every family does something different.
Yeah.
It's like whatever works for you, that's what's wonderful about it, is like there's such a flexibility in like whatever works for you guys. And if like, you know, if like Damien's gone, or sometimes I know they go on trips, and you can like take your work with you, or count it as a trip, and it's so cool. Okay, I'm gonna get you a glass of water, because I feel like you need a glass of water. I can tell. Okay, but can you talk about what the most rewarding thing is? Okay, I'll be honest.
I think for me, the most rewarding thing is allowing the kids to learn in the ways that best works for them, and then seeing them thrive in that. My oldest, like an example of that for me is my oldest loves to read, and totally takes after me, and just could read for hours if you would allow him to. And he never really had the freedom to do that when he was in public school. He would do some reading in school when he would have free time, when he would finish stuff early. But when he'd get home, you know, there'd be an hour to an hour and a half of homework and mandatory reading. And then a lot of times there would be, you know, sports that need to get done. And so we're traveling for sports and practices. And thank you. So he didn't really have the free time available to him to do the reading that he wanted to do. And so this year it was really, he had a lot of interest in Harry Potter, and a lot of his friends reading Harry Potter. And so with homeschool, he had the freedom to read as much as he wanted to read. Now he still had to get all his stuff done for the day, but a lot of times he would spend hours reading. And so in late February, he decided he wanted to start reading, and by the end of the school year, he had finished the entire series, all 7 books.
Oh my gosh.
Which is thousands and thousands of pages of reading. And so for me, that was one of the most rewarding things, like the conversations he and I had about the books, and that we were able to sit down and like talk about them. He would come downstairs like at 9:30 at night and be like, "Mom, I can't believe this happened," and we'd be able to share that and talk about that. And absolutely, so like cool. Parents that don't homeschool have those same moments with their kids, but it was just cool that he had the freedom to read as much as he wanted to read, and that it would count for part of his day.
And that's incredible. Like, I mean, 7 books, and there are hundreds of pages a piece.
Oh yeah,
that's crazy. Okay, so this is not a topic. I think somebody asked something else. I gotta go back. Oh yeah, so Jessica said she's in that boat. She has a 2-year-old and a kinder. Oh. Yeah, kindergarten's the funnest though. Kindergarten's the best.
It is.
It's like, yeah. Okay, so these are just 2 kind of personal questions. Amanda, I want to know, what do you believe that you think most people don't believe? That's what I'm curious about.
I had a really hard time with that question.
Really?
I could not think of anything. Something I believe that most people don't believe.
You can write in the comments if you want. You can go back later.
I might have to go back later. I don't know that I don't know. I guess I think like
there's a ton of stuff. We always talk about it, and I can't pull up like one thing.
I know.
Like one specific thing. Anyway, I know you believe a lot of awesome stuff. Okay, let's go back to this one. So last one is, what would you say? So there's a parent out there who is thinking about homeschooling their kid, or maybe they're just getting started and they're like, I don't know if I can do this. And think about where you were at least a year ago, maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
What would you say to that parent right now if they were on here?
I think the best advice or thing that I could say is research. Like, and not necessarily book research. That's great. But find people that homeschool. I know a year ago when we really started thinking about it and thinking that it was going to be the best choice for our kids and for our family, I talked to 3 different homeschooling families in Napa and talked to them about how do they do things and what curriculums do they like, what curriculums do they not like. What are the things they love about homeschooling? What are the things they hate about homeschooling? And just tried to get a feel for what other parents thought about it and how it was working for them and what different things they had tried. There's so many different options out there, whether you're an independent homeschooler or you go through like a Christian homeschool program, or whether you go through a charter school and you get some help, or whether there's online homeschools.
K-12,
there's so many, K-12, Connections Academy.
Yeah.
There's a multitude of different things that you can do to homeschool. So just talking to other parents, like what worked for you, what didn't work for you. I know I came over to Julie's house and I was like, show me how you do it. Like, what curriculum do you use? How do you keep track of stuff? How do you, document everything? Because documentation is really huge.
That's
like you have to document.
Yes.
So I think just talking to other parents. I also had a friend that was homeschooled her entire life. So I invited her over to my house for coffee, and
cool.
She doesn't have children of her own yet. But I was able to ask her, what did you love about homeschooling? What did you hate about homeschooling? Like, if you could go back, what would you do differently? What would you ask your parents to do differently? So I think doing all of that really helps you to kind of get a feel for like, is this going to be a good fit for our family, or is this not going to be a good fit for our family? And and it's not for everyone. There are some amazing public schools out there and amazing private schools, and I'm not a one size fits all. Like, everyone, does what fits best for their families.
And that's the thing, is like, you have to realize, like, there's like, I when I would meet with families as a teacher and they were like considering homeschooling, sometimes I'd be like, this is not a good fit for you. Don't do this. It's like, it's not for everybody, but if it is for you, you should try it. So Rachel brought up, there's great homeschool blogs out there and Facebook homeschool support groups. Hey, Rachel, will you tag some so that we can see what they are and everybody else can see what they are? And Heather Ann said, tell us all your secrets. I don't know. Have we told all our secrets? I don't know. We were talking about for documenting, is that what you meant? How do you keep track of what the kids did to turn into your teacher at the end of the month?
Oh, well, I just kind of stole what Julie did. So each of my children has a folder, and in that folder I keep like a weekly, I don't even know,
like lesson plan
kind of like, it has each of their like 4 main subjects across the top, and then each day of the week going down the left side, and then anything we do that could fit in those boxes, I just jot it down. And so then at the end of the month, when I meet with the teacher, our teacher would just photocopy those pages, and that would be that, and then we turn in like one sample of each subject. So for us, that's what worked for us. It was pretty simple. It was it's just remembering to jot stuff down as it happens.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key, because then you'll be like, I'm going to remember like a week ago what we did today, and then you get to a week ago, you're like, I don't remember. You're like, you went on this field trip and you totally can't even remember that you went on the field trip. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, I forgot to write that down. She said, Heather said, tell her everything, getting started. The baby's 10 months and I'm ready to start planning now. Okay, it's never too early, Heather. By the time the baby gets there, though, it could be like all different. I mean, there could be like some amazing new resources and stuff. All right, we'll have to set up like a phone call. Okay, and then so you said to research.
Yes.
Yeah, do the research.
Research, online research. Go to the library and check out books. I think I read so many great books last summer about all different types. I don't think there's so many different homeschool ideas. There's the idea of unschooling.
Yes.
There's like Charlotte Mason, which is a really like literature-based ideas, and then there's just so many different ideas. So I just really encourage people to read up on everything, and for some people decide that one way of doing it is the right for them. I really feel like ours, we've just kind of picked and chose what we liked.
Yes.
And then
like a composite.
Yeah, and then we just make what works for us. Like one idea might work for language arts. For history, we really like the literature aspect and reading really good books and talking about it together. maps and artwork and, tying all that stuff into history. So,
that's so great.
So I think, you just find what works best for you and what's going to work best for your families, and then you pull those ideas in. And
what about, have you found out in all your research any prospective things about kids going to college? Like, did you find out any research about that? Like, homeschool kids in college?
I've found that a lot of the articles that I've read most recently, and a lot of there's some really good TED Talks out there on stuff, is colleges are actually actively recruiting homeschooled kids.
Nice.
Because homeschool kids generally have learned to be self-taught, and they're can be a little more, I don't know how to decide it. They don't necessarily need a teacher to tell them what to do. They're more motivated to go out and find the answers and figure it out for themselves. And so their brain is just wired a little bit differently. And so they're finding that those are the kids that oftentimes, not always, go to college and are able to do the things that they need to do, and that love learning and are willing to think outside of the box. And
love it.
That kind of stuff. So I think that's, for me, that was hugely encouraging, because that's a worry as a parent. Like, are my kids going to be able to get into college? Are transcripts going to be right?
Right.
All that kind of stuff. But really, I think college is, man, my voice is just
sorry,
gone.
I'm making her talk this whole time. Well, I won't make you talk anymore, but I do want to say, I just want to honor you for teaching me and encouraging me and inspiring me and just showing me so many new things. And really, you've really impacted the way that I'm thinking about homeschooling, and I've been doing it forever. So I really appreciate that about you, and I just appreciate your encouragement and the things that you say to me. They just prod me on, and to be a better person and a better mom and a better homeschooler. And so thank you so much for being my friend and my neighbor. All right, I think that is it. We have some people that want to say hi, I think. And there they go. Watch out. There they are. They've been so good this time. You guys haven't even heard them, have you? So anyway, may your minds be fierce and your hearts very strong and your spirits very kind today. We love you. Bye.